Hey guys, in today's video I worked on a really fun project that I wasn't expecting to do, and that was planting the Invincible Spirit 2 hydrangeas. So that is what these hydrangeas are right here. These are a type of hydrangea arborescens or smooth hydrangea. This is the type that is one of the hardy hydrangeas. They will bloom reliably for you every season. So there's no worries about the buds freezing because they develop buds on new wood. These can be cut back every year. I'm planning on cutting these back to about maybe 12 or 18 inches off the ground. But I think that they make this bed look really, really nice. I'll just kind of walk you through everything that I ended up doing because there's a few steps that I took to make all of this look the way that it was. So the first thing was I had the Monarda on either side that I started last year, and it was just way too tall. It was getting powdery mildew, and that's just what happens with that variety, but I just didn't love it. You know, there's a lot of things that I've put in the garden, and almost everything I really, really love that I put in, but there's a couple things here and there where I'm like, you know what? I just don't love it. It's not my favorite thing. It's not my style. And I was feeling that way with this Monarda. The other thing is that it was getting in the way of this cherry tree because the Monarda was growing into the cherry tree. It was just like way too tall for this space. So even if I was going to have it in the garden, it would have had to be in a different spot. So I transplanted the Monarda. I also limbed up this cherry tree here. I took several branches off, as you had seen, so that way it just has a better shape, and it looks pretty decent right now. It actually does have a really nice shape. It definitely grows in like a V shape. It'll definitely get wider over time because that's how these naturally grow. But I would say that this lowest branch here is probably like 3.5 feet, maybe 4 feet off the ground, probably 3.5 though. So I could probably even limb this tree up a little bit more, but I'm gonna leave it like that for now. I think it has a nice shape to it, so I just want to keep it how it is, and maybe just any branches that grow kind of low, I'll end up pruning that. So I got rid of the Monarda, and then there was 1, 2, 3 Midnight Masquerade penstemon, and then there was 2 lobelia. I think it was called Big Blue Lobelia, something just like the native species. So I moved the lobelia here, as you can see. We've got a pinpoint blue cedar and then a tiny quickfire hydrangea, so I figured these 2 would go here. And then I can add more. This is a serendipity allium, so I actually was thinking about if I can get my hands on them, a few more of these plants, and then just kind of dot them out through here and make a nice little drift in this section. I know there's weeds. That will be taken care of. I've just, you know, I wanted to make sure I got this project done. And then this is where I planted the Midnight Masquerade. I also like doing a little clump of it. I put all 3 plants together. So we'll see. They're going to grow with this limelight hydrangea and the cedar. It's probably going to fill in time, and there won't be a whole lot of room for this, but I figured at least for now, for the first few years, it's okay if they're in this spot here. They're already done blooming, so I actually cut them back right before I transplanted them, and also it helps a little more with transplant shock, so it's just a smaller plant to transplant, and then I'm just going to water these in once a day for at least the next couple of weeks or so. I was thinking of making a separate video on this, but I'm just going to lump it in now because I also planted a couple of spruces. Okay, so those Colorado blue spruces are really cool. They're a variety called Montgomery. They're naturally going to stay more of that globe shape, but they may eventually develop a leader over time. So that's going to be in the island bed that's right on the other side. So here's the hydrangeas, the other things we were talking about, and then right on this side in the island bed, you could see those 2 spruces. I love the color. I think that they really help start to complete the look. I've still got a few more things I want to put in here, but just adding a nice pop of color into this area that isn't green, that isn't purple, that isn't yellow, but a nice blue color here, besides the lamb's ear. So these Spirit 2 hydrangeas, I will say the one thing about smooth hydrangeas, if you're looking for them at the garden center, they look really good right now, but these are just on the more brittle side, especially in terms of transporting. So like you can see this one here, it's a little, like if you look at it this way, it's a little flat. Like it doesn't have much of a front to it. So they look good this year, but they're definitely going to continue growing and filling out over the next couple of years. But I think after this initial season, cutting them back and then allowing them to regrow and being a little more developed in this particular spot is really going to help. Plus they'll also probably touch at this point, just in terms of spacing. These get about 3.5 to 4 feet tall and then kind of like 4 to 5 feet wide. So I ended up spacing them 4 feet apart from each other, and I also did that because I only had 5, so I wanted to make sure I could really get around the tree. I actually did space them 3 feet when I was kind of going through it, and then 3 feet only brought it to about halfway through where the actual the trunk was, and it looked weird. It looked like a semicircle, and I didn't want it to be a semicircle, but I didn't necessarily want it to go all the way around. So it's just kind of those design things that you got to mess with it a little bit to see exactly what kind of look you're going for. So they probably won't get any taller than they are now. They're just going to fill out and be a little bit wider, but they're 4 feet apart on center from one plant to the next, and then they're also 4 feet on center from the plant to the base of the tree. So they'll pretty much get to around the base of the tree, but there'll probably be a little bit of breathing room, and I think that's going to be perfect for it. My other thought in terms of just planning for the future is that smooth hydrangeas, especially in our climate, because I'm in a zone 6B in Rhode Island, they actually do best in full sun, as long as they get enough precipitation and enough hand water. But they can definitely still tolerate some shade, because hydrangeas as a whole generally do okay with a more part shade situation. So these, I'm thinking, as this tree right here continues to grow, these hydrangeas were still a better choice than some other shrubs in terms of something that's still going to flower pretty well, but I will see less flowers year after year as time goes on, and there may be a chance, maybe in the next like 10 or 15 years, that I may want to transplant these and put them to a spot where it's a little bit sunnier. But I figured, hey, if I get 10 or 15 years out of this one spot, I think that's a decent amount of time. I am really loving the look of it though, because I feel like it's such a focal point now. When you look at like the entire garden, kind of looking at this point, I'm standing close to where like the hot tub is over here, and just kind of where you would naturally walk down these stairs. And I just feel like you really see that pop of pink. Plus my mom really loves this Kwanzaa flowering cherry for the pink blooms that it has in the spring, but it only lasts for a couple of weeks, and I know that she loves pink. So I figured this is something that's gonna last for a few months, and she'll really get to look at these for a while and continue seeing that pink color. So that's pretty much it for this project. I just wanted to work on this, and I ended up grabbing all these hydrangeas because they're not that easy to come by, at least not in my area. I'll see like the Incredible hydrangeas and maybe like the standard Annabelle, but in terms of other, especially the pink ones like the Ruby, the Garnetta, the Invincible Spirit too, you just don't see them all that often, and if you do, they're usually really expensive, and I got these for a decent price. So just something to consider, but hopefully if you're interested in these hydrangeas, and they're a really great plant to put in the ground, hopefully you can get your hands on them. Besides that, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comment section down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.